Mayonnaise.
I think you should marry Miss Piggy. I think it's the right thing to do.
Have you ever dated a pig, Jim?
I'm not going to answer that.
Yes, well, it's probably safe not to. If you have, you know what I mean.
He should. He should date one.
Thank you, Andy.
Whatever.
That guy who's playing Scrooge.
Oh, that's Michael Caine.
Who's he?
He's a very well-known actor.
Is he like a human?
He's just like one. Yes, exactly like a human.
Do you have a brain?
What?
You have a brain.
Yes, it's in my little green head. Do you have a brain?
Yes, pink.
It's pink?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
You forgot how good of whose album?
Abbey Road.
Is that the Beatles?
Yes, that's like the best album they ever put out.
It was obvious from day number one that this kid, I had to give him and on day number one I did. I was driving home from the hospital, and I just said, God, I give him to you right now, because something tells me I better not try and hang on to him. And within 4 weeks he was in the hospital, back in the hospital. Within 8 weeks he was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. And he always belonged to everybody, from Seattle ball teams to churches to city big business people, to anybody that could come through your life. They all got a piece of him. The best part of it, though, was I get a chance to kind of pseudo-objectively stand on the sidelines and cheer with everybody else. And I could speak with pride about my son and not feel like, well, that's just father love. And at the end of the day, when everybody else went home, then I had that too. So I had the best of it all. If it be your will to let me sing.
So anyway, my dad's car broke down, so he won't be coming down to spend the night.
Your dad's going to spend the night?
Yeah.
Great. Does he usually spend the night?
Sometimes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Next door. We're looking at a skinny package with a little
Tastes like chicken.
When Andrew was in the hospital for the last stretch of his life, the last fleeting months, somebody asked us, could we do a Make-A-Wish for Andrew? What would he like? And I said, well, Andrew had a Make-A-Wish, and I know how those things work. They take a lot of time, and I know that we don't have that kind of time at this point. But earlier that week, I'd had a dream about Terry Taylor coming to minister over Andrew, because we both love his music and his ministry so much. And so I just told this lady, I said, if you can get a hold of Terry Scott Taylor to come down to the hospital, there you go. And she says, well, where do I start? And I gave her a direction and just let it go. 48 hours later, Terry walked into the hospital.
Found that old man lying on the street. Thought I'd do my good deed. I wrapped my coat around him and brought him food to eat. With labored breath he struggled, but his eyes held heaven's light. He whispered, young man, don't feel bad for me. It'll all work out.
Cystic fibrosis is a genetic disorder that affects 1 in every 2,000 Caucasian children in this country. 1 in every 20 is a carrier. It has always been primarily a Caucasian disease, much as sickle cell anemia is an African American disease, that sort of thing. However, now they're discovering that it actually affects more races across the board than they ever thought. I'd say it's probably safe to begin speculating that cystic fibrosis is probably the #1 killer of children, genetic disorder that kills children in this country. It affects mostly the digestive system and all bodily secretions. So when it comes to digesting, the way the body has to work to assimilate food, 25 years ago, these children starved to death before the age of 7 or 8. By taking enzymes, that's pretty much circumvented now. However, they're usually pretty thin. They don't develop very fast, very easily. They don't grow correctly, so they generally look a lot younger than they are. It also affects the lungs, and that's the big one, where the lungs don't wash themselves properly, and so what you get is all the small bronchial tubes are filled with gunk, and these kind of a form of pneumonia takes place quite often, and they spend a lot of time in the hospital, 14 days at a time, getting an antibiotic clean-out. And Andrew spent a lot of his life in the hospital. Cystic fibrosis, you'll hear about somebody, rarely, but you hear about somebody who's older and has it. And that's a very light case. Then there's moderate cases, and then there's severe cases. Andrew had moderate asthma, and he had severe cystic fibrosis. At the age of 9, Andrew was pretty much done, but by the grace of God, he was given a second chance with a double lung heart transplant, both lungs and heart, at Stanford University. And that, they said, could buy him another 2 years of life. As it was, it bought him 6, and they were good years too.
What do you have there, Andy?
A cat.
Oh, a cat. Meow.
Pretty cute. Then sit. Then shake. Shake, then. Then shake. Here, give me your hand.
The idea of come as a child, Jesus' words, come as a child, you must enter the kingdom of heaven like a child or not at all, is something I pounded on Andrew. It was my big sermon all through the years with Andrew, because he would see things happen in church life and among Christians that, why do they act this way? And my big logo was, well, we need to become more like children, and that's the way to come into the kingdom, or not at all. In the last days of his life in the hospital, his very last days, he motioned across his chest one day like this, and he looked up at me and said, "Want to get a big tattoo, big stinking black tattoo." And with all the other things he'd ever done in his life, I just took him literally at first. And I said, whatever. He says, "No, Dad, I want a big black tattoo that says, like a child, not at all." And he kind of winked at me.
God formed our feet to walk golden streets when this hard life is past. It's time to make your peace with God, 'cause this life's over fast. We were built for glory. We were made to last.
I just want to say hi. Best wishes. Happy Thanksgiving. And I hope you liked the boxers. Bye.
And draw us near and bind us tight, all your children here, in the rags of light, in our rags of light, all dressed to kill, and end this night, if it be your will, if it be your will.